Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Deeper Waters podcast. You know, every time now I say that, I
You think of the time you mess
every single time
episode.
it goes through my head, and I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But
Way to go. Hey, you haven't done it in a while. So.
It's only been that one time, I think, that I messed it up, and it haunts me. Terribly. But anyways, we're glad you're joining us. I'm Andrea, joined by Brandon.
What's up, guys?
We're super excited to be diving into today's conversation with you guys. But before we get there, a couple of reminders. One, this podcast comes out every first and third Wednesday of the month. If you don't like keeping track of that, again, just subscribe. It'll drop right in your podcast feed. It's the simplest way to do that. I just had the realization that we only have like 3 left until summer, which is...
Summer's coming.
Wow.
Even though you may not feel it, summer is coming.
Summer is coming.
Hold on.
Spring is trying to show up, but winter is just having a moment.
There's doing a Midwest goodbye.
Yeah. We're sick of it.
I did see some green grass on my drive home yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's really trying. Spring is trying to show up.
It is trying. Like today, it's supposed to be that we're recording it. It's supposed to be rainy, but also maybe snowy too today. So it's trying to spring, but winter is like, nah, bro, I'm still here. So, yuck, gross. Anyways.
All of you who are listening, if your parents have stuck around the church after a Sunday, you know the feeling.
Yes, exactly. All right, so a couple other announcements for you guys. Retro Game Night, if you're listening to this in the first couple of days that the episode drops, it is this Friday, April 4th, so be sure to come, hang out, play games. Like, it's really just a chill night with friends. So invite your friends. It's a great opportunity to bring friends who maybe wouldn't otherwise want to come to church, but if it's just coming to play games, they might be more willing. So invite your friends. You can get tickets ahead of time online on our website, the link in our Instagram bio. Text one of us if you can't find it. We'll get you the link for your tickets to get you signed up for that. Brandon, do you have our game you're most looking forward to for that?
Yes. I am excited. I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but Mario Kart being outside, I'm super excited for that. Just something new, something fresh with Mario Kart, which is like a classic for Retro Game Night. But also Chase had a really good idea shout out to Chase, for Frogger. And so you just got to come and see what happens. And I am very much looking forward to seeing how that turns out.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun. I was having a conversation with somebody today because there might be some Wiis there too to like play some games. So that's a possibility. But I was talking to her about this and she was like, Wiis are retro? That makes me feel old. And I was like, well... Not all of our games are really that retro. It's just more of a fun name. It's just a game night.
We have we got a mix of, Frogger being in the 70s, 80s, and then we also have early 2000s.
So it's great. It's great. So we're excited for that 7 to 10 right here at the church. There will be food, obviously. Lots of fun. Bring your competitive spirits because we will have them. So... Anyways.
If you don't, I'll just destroy you in Mario Kart and you'll be sad.
All right. And then also Easter is coming up. So we have a variety of services that we would love to see you at. We don't have Impact that night. So we would love to see you during one of the services that weekend. We have Good Friday services that Friday night at 6 o'clock in person. And then there's an online only option at 8. And then over the course of the weekend, Saturday, there's one at 5:30. And then Sunday, there's 3, 8:30, 9:45, and 11. So we would love to have you come check that out. Also, really cool is they're doing this we're having this Stations of the Cross, passion experience is what we're calling, where it's really a time for you to come and reflect. There's going to be some different artwork that is created by an artist from the Twin Cities, like specifically for this, which is super exciting. And yeah, so you can come. There will be prompts to think through, process through, just as we prepare our hearts for Good Friday and what that means, but also the celebration of Easter Sunday. So there are a couple of different times that you can come check that out. Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. The times are on the website, so you can check those out if you would like to come do that. And we definitely encourage you guys to check it out. It'll be a really good way, we think, to kind of center your heart and focus your heart on the Easter celebration and why we celebrate.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Passion experience. I think just talking to Margot and just like what's all going to be a part of it. And I really encourage you to carve out some time that week to experience that and to walk through just and reflect what Jesus went through for us, and so that we can be saved and have life in him. So yeah,
it's super exciting. So those are a couple of really exciting things that are coming up. Brandon, do you have a random thought for us this week?
Yeah, and this ties into what we're talking about today, so a little bit of foreshadowing. But you know, what makes you the saltiest? I think everyone has something, and I don't know if you've ever been out in the...
I have a lot of things. I feel like there's a lot of things that can make me salty.
I do feel like sometimes, you know, if you're just in the crowd and you haven't interacted with us a ton yet, like you can just see us as, the youth pastor, super fun, whatever. But we have a salty side, I promise.
Yeah,
we do.
More salty than others. You can take a guess at which one that is. No, it's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, what makes you? What makes you the saltiest?
When I think about this, like I think about too, like a similar, like biggest pet peeves, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
This is really broad, but like bad drivers.
Yeah.
Like whether it's going below the speed limit when the weather is fine outside, or not using your blinker. Any of kind of those.
When their headlights are too bright.
Headlights are too bright. I don't know if I'm overly sensitive, but I feel like it's all the time that people like LED lights as headlights.
Should be only brights only.
Need to stop.
Yep.
Need to stop.
Yep.
So, so lots of driving things. Also, I don't have this issue because I have my own bathroom in my house. So right now it's not an issue. But one of the things that makes me really salty when I shared a bathroom at different points in my life is when people brush their teeth and then spit into the sink and don't wash it down the sink.
People do that?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, if you do that, stop it.
Yeah,
get some help.
Before you go to college and you meet people that you want to be your friends, if you want them to stay your friends, make sure you wash down the sink.
It's not that hard.
No, it's not.
Just turn the water on for a little bit.
It's harder when you let it sit, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then it just gets gunked on there and it's nasty. So yeah, that makes me real salty.
Yeah, that would make me salty. I've never experienced that. I shared a bathroom with two brothers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad for you that you've never experienced that. But, oof, yeah, that's a bad one.
Yeah,
I feel like we could spend the whole podcast listening to me say things that make me salty. How about you? Any other things, besides bright headlights?
That one does it for sure. I think driving as well. There was a moment, if you were with me in Chicago, where I honked at someone, and I apologize for all the students that were in that van, but that person did cut me off and brake for no reason. And that's just don't slow down.
I don't think you need to apologize for honking. They put it on there for a reason.
Yeah.
I would be totally okay for that culture of the DR to make its way.
Yeah. Baby.
Certain parts of the country, they got the horn honking down. We don't. In Midwest, we try to be nice.
But I think I think
Jesus would have used a horn.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It depends on where he's at. I don't know.
I mean, if you get Jesus in the temple type of righteous anger, Anyways,
We'll see.
What else makes you salty?
I think when I just get hungry, like I have to be very mindful about what I say and how I respond to things, or the look on my face when I feel like, I just like I'm a 3 meals a day kind of person. And when I feel like I skimped out on either, like if I only have banana for breakfast or lunch is pretty weak, like, yeah. So I just have to be mindful. Yeah. So if you just see me leave the office, it might be one of those days and I'm just trying to.
You need to have space.
Yeah, just have some space so I don't accidentally make someone mad.
For sure.
So.
For sure. I love that. All right. Well, again, we won't sit there too long. Yeah. But if you want to share with us what makes you salty, we would love to hear it.
Really? We want to hear it.
Yeah, we want to know. We want to know. Okay. What's the song we're listening to this week, Brandon?
Yeah, I had one last night, and I changed my mind this morning, and it's not something we're doing this weekend. It's a song I hope we do coming up soon, but for those of you going to Life Conference, this is kind of the main song for that time, but I think it's a great song for any occasion. But the song is called Here and Now by Heart Room Worship, and you have to look up Heart Room Worship because it's like the only song they have out right now. They are going to add more, I promise. But the song Here and Now is looking at the passage from Deuteronomy 30, and it's really he's starting to end his speech to the Israelites right before they go into the promised land. And he's encouraging them to continue to ask for forgiveness, to confess their sin, to continue to sacrifice to the Lord and not fall away from following the Lord's commands. And when we do this, he says that the Israelites will be blessed. And so when they don't, that they won't be blessed. And he is encouraging them to choose life. And when we choose to follow God, we're choosing life. And that's kind of the main thing of this song. It's like, I choose life here and now. And that's something I think as we're looking to like Easter this month and the resurrection of Jesus, like that is life, and we get to experience that life here and now. Yeah. And I think that's that song just points to. So I think it's a really great song and a really great message, and I think just like really encouraging. So if you're like in a place of, man, I feel like I don't have a lot of life in me, I think that song can help you just take those right steps moving forward.
For sure. Awesome. So now we're going to dive into our conversation, and high school is getting ready to start a new series, right? Yes. The last one of the school year.
Wow.
Again.
Here we are.
I mind blown. But yeah, headed into this last series. And so going to be talking a little bit about justice. But let's start by reading a passage from scripture, and then we're going to dive into some conversation surrounding this. So I'm going to be reading from Matthew 5, verses 13 through 16. So it says this: "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty?" I get where you got that question. Very good. Anyways, it's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and it gives light for all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. So as we read that, what are some first things, observations, things that jump out at you as we read this passage?
Yeah, and like you said before, like we're talking about justice, and you might be thinking to yourself, how in the world does this passage portray to justice? And I think it really does, and it's understanding the cultural context of what's going on is, I think, really important. And we have to think about what in the world, why would he say you are the salt of the earth, and why would he say you are the light of the world? And I think light of the world, that can be better understood, like, oh, we're like, Jesus came in light to overcome the darkness. That like truth. And if you went to Awana, it's like, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Like that's okay. I understand that we are supposed to be people who bring truth wherever we go. I think that's easy to kind of get that and make those connections. But salt, like, are we supposed to be flavorful? Like
salty all the time,
Just-
cause nailing it. No.
no, I mean, like, I think it's easy to think
it's
that.
harder to understand that part.
But really, what salt was used for that time, it was used for taste, but it was mainly used to preserve food. Like, we think about, like, a bean burrito from Taco Bell. Those things last forever because they're salty. Think about that next time you go to Taco Bell and all the salty food that you're about to eat, or whatever fast food restaurant you go to. But anyways, like, it's a preservative. So, like, God is saying, like, you are supposed to be people who preserve something, and that thing that we're supposed to preserve is righteousness. Like, preserve righteousness in the way that you live, and how we preserve righteousness is through what I would call biblical justice. Like, and Jesus goes on continuously throughout the Gospels of, like, care for the oppressed, care for the widow, care for the orphan, care for the outsider, care for those who have less than. And, like, that's what that justice is being able to see those who we would consider who are in a disadvantage, who have less choices than we do, and showing light to those people. Yeah. And, like, that's the first thing that I notice. But it's also like it's not Jesus saying, go do this, like, go be salt, go be light. It's, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. So it's that identity piece that, like, as of who we are in Jesus, we are going to be people who bring forth justice and bring forth truth into the world. We're not called just to sit back and do nothing, but we're supposed to go forward with that.
Yeah. And I think a couple of, like, things that it's important for us to remember as we're talking about this is, like, one, I think justice is a thing that's talked about a lot in our culture, and there's a little bit of a difference. Sometimes they align, but sometimes they don't, in what, like, the world says is justice and what is just, and what God says is just.
Yes.
And so, like, we have to be very cautious as we approach that, and as we try and do justice. We have to be careful, and I like, again, like what you said, biblical justice. Like, it's important that we have that distinction of making sure the justice we think we're doing, like, is in line with what Scripture says. And so that's an important thing for us to remember. And the other part of it too is that, like, we, because of who we are in Jesus, right, we get to have the opportunity to participate in this. However, like, we are not the ultimate bringers of justice.
Yes.
So we have to, like, we get to partner with God in what he's doing in this, but it's not like it's not only our job to bring about justice. Like, he is the perfect judge, will bring perfect justice to the world, but we get to be a part in doing that.
Right. Like, he is the perfect judge, like you said. Yes. Like, he is the one who has the final judge, the final say, then all of this, and it's the invitation to join in what he is doing. Yeah. Like, that's why I like this identity piece. It's not Jesus saying, hey, just go do this. It's part of who you are, because it's Jesus inviting us into, like, hey, come, like, who you are, your identity should be in me, and this is what I'm about. So join me in what I am doing because of who I'm saying you are, because of who I am. Yeah. Did you follow that?
I think so.
That was a lot.
Well, I think, like, again, like, it really is like back in Genesis when it talks about, like, God created us in his image, right? It's not like this physical image thing, but it's more about his character.
Right.
And, like, we know God is a just God. And so when we inherit that as part of his image bearers, like, that is a part of us, like you said. It's not something we're going, like, to do. It is a part of who we are, because it is a part of who God is.
And I think that too, like, that kind of that should change the way we view missions, change the way we view how we live out justice, because I think oftentimes it's like, okay, I got to uproot everything and I have to go to wherever far off country where they have a larger poverty population and serve there. And maybe that's it. That is absolutely an option. But I also think, especially for you students who you don't have that option right now. Sorry, you can't just leave your parents.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, but not today. But today you have it's because it's a part of who you are. It's living out justice and mission where you are at right now. Some ways, and the scholars kind of go back and forth on this interpretation of the Great Commission in Matthew 28. Like we say, like Jesus said to go and make disciples of all nations. Some scholars would also say that go word is as you are going, make disciples of all nations. And whatever Jesus was saying in that moment, I think both are true.
Yeah.
Of like, despite of what was actually said, like as we're going about our lives, as we're on our football teams or softball teams or in our band, like in band, whatever it is, like as we're going, are we being the salt of the earth and light of the world? And what that is really joining God's mission. And like God's been on this mission since day one, and like it's just something that we're joining in, and we have the privilege and honor of being able to do.
Yeah. So with that being said, like we get to join in with him on this, what takeaway or what like action step can we take from this passage? Like what does that actually look like if we're not gonna, move across the world necessarily?
Yeah.
Like what does it look like to live this out, to apply it to our lives right now as high school students, heading into college, whatever that may be?
Well, I think two things. And so these are kind of both a challenging thing because I think when it comes to justice, it's all going to be out of our comfort zone. Yeah. We love our comfort. So these two challenges are going to be out of your comfort zone. So why don't you be ready for this? I think when we think of justice and the injustices of the world, whether it's racism or poverty or kids going hungry or the sex trafficking system, whatever it is, we can tend to either just feel this guilty, paralytic feeling of there's too much, I can't do anything by myself. Or we just become apathetic. We get no feelings at all, and we're just like, I can't do anything about it, so I'm going to do nothing. And both of these are wrong. And my encouragement for you is to pray, to go to God and say, God, what's one thing that you've placed on my heart that I can step into right now? And in this moment, maybe for you, it's being able to notice the students on your peers who are on the outside, like who often are at lunch by themselves or never get picked for a class project or whatever it is. It's noticing those people and going to them, and like being friends. Like that, maybe that's it right now. But maybe it's also helping out a nonprofit in the area, whether it's Arrive Ministries helping out refugees or New Life helping out single moms, whatever it is. But it's just like finding like just one thing. You can't fix all the problems. That's God's job. It's God's job to deal with all of that. So it's finding one thing, one passion, and just stepping into that faithfully and consistently and watching God do really cool things in that one thing. And then the second thing is being open. You have to be open. Like a friend of mine would always say, like, have your yes on the table for whatever it is. And if that's going to, like Mother Teresa went to Calcutta and just like loved on poverty people there, maybe that's you. But maybe it's living out justice here in Rochester and having your heart open to wherever God may be calling you to and faithfully saying yes. And that's a scary thing to be open to, I think, because God might take you places that are dangerous, like that are unfortunately dangerous. Thinking about Christians who were persecuted and killed in the Middle East like a month ago, and how do we deal with that? And that's not going to be all of us, but I think being yes to saying, hey, Jesus, if you're not just the Savior, but you're the Lord of my life, being able to say yes to that and faithfully see how He works through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is so good. And it's something that I heard, I can't remember who I heard this from, if I read it or heard it in a podcast or something, but one thing that I really like is, like, again, I think it's often we're like, oh, what difference can I make? Like, like I can't, eradicate world hunger. So what,
Yeah.
like, what can I really do? But I heard that, and it's do for one what you wish you could do for all.
Yeah.
And so figure that out. Like, again, it doesn't have like we say with a lot of spiritual practices, I think that
Yeah.
we talk about, like we say, like, start small. Like what's one little thing that you can do? Who's one person you can help, give a voice to, or
Yeah.
provide a need for, whatever that may be. Like, find one person or one thing that you can do that you wish you could do for everybody. And, like, again, like, you don't solve the problem on a worldwide scale, but you solve the problem or help solve that problem for that one person. And, like, that makes a difference in their world. And so, again, yeah, I think it's easy, and that's definitely a tactic of the enemy that
Yeah.
he uses, that, like, you can't actually make an impact. Like, he's going to use that. And so finding little things that you can do and step into each of those things. Any other final thoughts as we wrap up our conversation, our discussion today about being salty and lit fans?
Salty and lit. If you haven't watched the Gen Z Bible translation by Sunday Cole, go watch it. It's pretty good.
So good.
But yeah,
Salty and lit.
I think just find one. Just whether that's I think have eyes. What I would call eyes to see. Be aware. Like, Rochester is really diverse.
Yeah.
And if you're not trying to be aware of it, you won't notice that. But it's really diverse. Like, be aware of the different ethnicities we have here in Rochester. It's really, really cool. And, like, be a friend to everyone, and just, like, I think that's a great place to start. Is, like, if you're like, I don't know where to start when it comes to justice, I think just learning to be aware of the different things that are going around. Be aware of the homeless guy on the corner at Walmart, or
A smile goes a long way.
yeah, and just, like, encouraging to the people at the grocery store, or the people who are serving you at Culver's. So just, like, being aware of that and having that soft heart, and, like, keep being compassionate, especially when it's hard. Like, keep being compassionate, keep caring, and don't let it hesitate to affect you in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. So we hope that, again, as Brandon mentioned, like, this pushes you outside of your comfort zone. But know that you're not walking it alone. We get to go into each of these things with the power of the Holy Spirit inside of us, guiding us, leading us, and really is the one who does the work. And so we just get to be partners in it. And so we hope that, again, this was challenging, this was encouraging to you. If you have questions or want to talk more about this or another topic, we'd love to have conversations with you guys. We love you, we care about you. And with all that being said, we say to you, go and be more like Jesus.